Hello everyone, and welcome to Fresh Master Channel. Today, we are going to have some story from Reddit. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below. These simple clips mean a lot to the future of this channel.
In the days leading up to the anniversary trip, Ellie was busy planning a romantic night. She hummed while setting the table, excited. Then she heard footsteps on the path. Will was almost here. Meanwhile, Corey was working on his own plan. He'd been showing interest in Ellie for a while, getting close to her through small conversations with her friends. Over the last few months, he'd learned about her hopes, fears, and desires. Corey wasn't looking for love, just a challenge. He was sure he could win her over, even if she was married. Corey respected Will and had no plans to hurt him, but Ellie was beautiful, and with time, he thought he could convince her to have a secret fling. They'd meet up a couple of times a year, keeping it a secret. Will would never know. And in the end, Corey thought everyone would be happy. Except Ellie, who'd be stuck choosing between the two of them. Corey had spent years pushing Ellie's buttons, getting on her nerves, then apologizing with small gifts she liked, like dark chocolate or a scarf she'd mentioned. With his puppy dog eyes and sheepish smile, Ellie always ended up softening. "I still hate your damn guts, but you're not totally awful," she'd say after each round of groveling. But things changed in January. Just before Christmas, Corey had slept with Joe, one of Ellie's co-workers. On January 23rd, he was at Will and Ellie's house, watching football with Will. Ellie's phone rang, and she stepped out to take the call. They overheard bits of the conversation. "Hey, Joe, what's up?" "No way, you're kidding. He didn't do it." "Okay, calm down. Tell me what happened." The room was dead quiet for a split second. Then came the screech of a chair being shoved back, followed by the heavy thud of it hitting the floor. Ellie's boots pounded down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. "That fool! I swear to God, I'm gonna kick his freaking A!" Ellie's voice was raw with rage, each word sharp as a blade. Will looked over at Corey, his eyes wide with disbelief. His stomach churned. "Seriously, bro? You really broke another heart?" His voice dripped with frustration, the kind of disappointment you can't fake. Corey let out a deep, exhausted sigh, rubbing his temple. "Look, man, I'm sorry, okay? I know things are screwed up between you and Ellie, but Joe just wasn't the one. I couldn't just leave her strung out like that. You know I can't do that." Will's hand tightened into a fist. "When the hell are you gonna stop being such an idiot, huh? When are you gonna learn what it's like to actually give a damn about someone? Stay the hell away from my wife's friends, Corey. You know how much she's gonna rip me apart over this, right?" Corey shrugged, the corner of his lips twitching like he was trying to keep his cool. "I don't know, man. Maybe one day she'll just shoot me over this whole mess." He let out a half laugh, half sigh, like he was trying to make light of the situation, but it didn't land. Will glared at him, shaking his head in disbelief. "I don't own a tool, dude, but you really don't know her if you think she won't get her hands on one." The tension was suffocating until Ellie stormed in, slamming the door behind her. The look on her face was pure fury. "You're such a crap, Parker!" Ellie's voice was practically a growl, and when she used his last name, Corey knew it was bad, really bad. Corey stood up, trying to keep it calm, but it was obvious he wasn't ready for this. "I'm sorry, Elle. I swear to God, I didn't mean for this to happen. Joe's a sweet girl, but—" "Shut up, Corey!" Ellie's scream split the air like glass. She stepped closer, her eyes burning with rage. "Joe isn't just a nice girl. She's one of my best friends. I told you to stay the hell away from her. What the hell is wrong with you?" Corey's eyes darted to the floor, his face falling as guilt hit him hard. "I know, Elle. I messed up. Why, Corey?" Ellie's voice cracked as she choked back a sob, but her fury was still there, raw. "Why do you always do this? Use women like they're just some kind of disposable thing and then toss them aside when you're done. Can you, for once in your miserable life, just be a decent human being?" Her tears fell, and without warning, she grabbed a pillow off the couch and started hitting him with it. The soft thud of each blow felt like a hammer in his chest. Corey instinctively flinched, trying to dodge the pillow, but Ellie was relentless. "Why, Corey?" she sobbed, her voice breaking. "What the hell is wrong with you? Why do you do this to me, to them?" Corey grabbed his jacket, his face pale with the weight of it all. He took a step back, raising his hands. "Look, I think it's better if I just go. Let you cool off for a minute, all right? Maybe when you're not so pissed, we can talk. Ellie was shaking with anger and emotion. Her breath came in short, heavy bursts. She stared at him, eyes seething with contempt. Calm down? Her voice was dangerously low, like she was trying to hold herself together. You mess around with my friends, then come in here acting like I should calm the F down? Are you kidding me? With that, she threw another pillow at him, but this time it hit the door as he was leaving. The door slammed shut, but before Corey could get more than a few steps down the sidewalk, Ellie was right behind him, her bare feet pounding the pavement. I'm not done with you yet, Corey Parker! Get your damn A back here! Her voice was a mix of fury and desperation, and she wasn't backing down. Corey held up his hands in surrender, laughing nervously. All right. But it's freezing, Ellie. It's 28 degrees, and you're out here in a t-shirt, barefoot like some crazy person. Get back inside before you freeze your A off. He didn't want her to get sick, but he couldn't help noticing how the cold made her body react. She was shivering, but wouldn't back down. Screw this, Parker, she snapped, before bursting into tears again. Why, Corey, why can't you just stop being an idiot to my friends, to any woman? Well, what's wrong with you? Corey took a breath, his voice soft. You really want to know, Ellie? You sure? Because once I say it, there's no going back. Ellie paused, surprised by his tone. She'd always seen him as shallow, but now she wasn't so sure. Yeah, Corey, she said, calmer now. Tell me. Corey looked at her, his voice low. It's you, Ellie. Every time I'm with someone else, all I see is your face. You're married to my best friend, but you're the one I want. I can't shake it. I'm crazy about you. Ellie stepped back, her voice shaking. But we can't, Corey. She paused, trying to find the right words. I care about you, but this can't happen. Corey moved in, not giving her a chance to finish. He kissed her. Ellie pulled away, whispering, Oh, damn, what have I done? Corey sighed and said softly, I'm not going to apologize. I don't want to hurt Will, but you're something else, Ellie. I have to go now, but promise me we'll talk by the end of the week. Just a talk, nothing more. Coffee shop, I swear. Ellie barely whispered, I don't know, Corey. Corey gave her a soft smile. Go inside. It's freezing, and Will's going to be out here any minute if you don't go back. He got in his car, watching her turn and head back inside. When Ellie walked in, Will was standing by the table, looking nervous. I'm sorry, Ella. I know he can be an idiot. Maybe I should get out of the business, do something else. Something without Corey. Ellie forced a smile, hiding the chaos inside. No, baby, I'm just upset. I'm going to take a bath, have some wine. Let me relax, then come upstairs and give me a hug, okay? Will nodded, always trying to be the good guy. Sure, just take it easy. Let me know when you're ready. Ellie took a long bath. Corey came home, showered, and crashed on the bed. A little later, Ellie called for him to come upstairs and comfort her. 2 days later, at 10:30 a.m., Corey and Ellie sat across from each other at a local coffee shop. Ellie had told Will she was going to talk to Corey directly. I need to clear the air, she'd said. She hadn't figured it all out yet, but she knew she had to tell Will. If he found out they were sneaking around, he'd suspect something. Corey, this can't happen, Ellie started, her voice shaky. Corey could tell she was torn. I'm not going to pressure you, Ellie, but I felt what happened Sunday night. I know you felt it too. I know, Corey, she said, looking away. Something in me was pulled, but I love Will. I can't hurt him with lies and cheating. You gotta understand that. Corey leaned in, his voice soft. I don't want to hurt Will, but I can't ignore what's between us. This could be our secret. I'm not the marrying type. I'm not going to steal you away, even if I wanted to. But don't you want to enjoy this? Corey asked, his tone almost pleading. We could have something great and no one would ever know. It won't last long, but we'd have something unforgettable. Ellie hesitated, torn. I know it would be amazing, but how can we be sure it won't blow up and destroy my marriage? People get caught because they're careless. Corey looked at her, his face softening. We're not careless, Ellie. We can make sure no one gets hurt. No, Corey, she said, standing up. I can't do this. She turned and walked out of the cafe. As she walked to her car, she muttered to herself, It's not going to happen. Corey wasn't embarrassed. He knew she had crossed the line, and there was no turning back now. He'd wait, and eventually he'd help her take the next step. After a while, he grabbed a coffee for Will and headed to the office to lie, telling Will that Ellie had laid into him. A week later, Will had to drive to Winston-Salem for work. Ellie, with the evening free, decided to head home after work. When she got there, she was chilled from the cold February air. After a shower, she threw on a warm robe and settled by the fireplace with a glass of wine. Will called to say everything was going well and he'd be home the next day. 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the back door. Ellie looked up, startled. Standing there was Corey, smiling and holding a bottle of wine. Without thinking, she threw open the door and threw herself into his arms. It was freezing outside, but Corey had borrowed one of Will's jackets and put on a cap to avoid being seen. He picked her up, slung her over his shoulder, and carried her upstairs to Will and Ellie's bedroom. "What are you going to do, Parker? Get out of my room," Ellie said, glaring at him. "You might charm my friends, but I'm not impressed. Leave." But soon enough, Ellie forgot all about her words. 2 hours later, after another shower, they lay together, exhausted, falling asleep in each other's arms. Before Ellie fully drifted off, she remembered Will. Corey had set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. He let her sleep in while he made coffee, thinking through everything. They'd have to be careful from now on. Corey was starting to wonder if just a fling would be enough. Ellie was amazing. She was both submissive and pushed him like no one else. It thrilled him. When Ellie woke up, she could smell the coffee. Corey was sitting there with a smile. She got up, went to the bathroom, then they sat together, sipping coffee and talking quietly. A couple hours later, they were done, the sheets washed, and Corey was in the office. Will was heading home to his loving wife. Ellie never thought of herself as a cheater. Like most people, she saw herself as basically good. Maybe what she was doing wasn't right, but she didn't let herself think about that. "I love Will, and I always will," she thought. She didn't think too much about the betrayal. She just decided everything would be okay and moved on with her life. For the next 8 months, Corey and Ellie spent at least one day a week together, whether in bed, in the car, on the couch, or sneaking off in a park or a quiet corner of a parking lot at Lowe's Motor Speedway. They kept their meetings unpredictable, never in the same place twice, always at times that would be nearly impossible to catch. Hotels were often used, and every third meeting, Corey would pick a nearby city, so it could be passed off as a business expense. Ellie would tell Will she was checking out a horse or researching a competitor's stable. She kept loving her husband like she always had. Even if it wasn't hard to do, she genuinely cared about him. Will trusted them both, never suspecting a thing. When Will told Corey in August that he planned to surprise Ellie with a Caribbean cruise for their 10th wedding anniversary, Corey decided to spend a weekend with Ellie before that. He knew she was starting to worry things were cooling off between them, but he wasn't about to lose interest. He also knew this might be the last fling, so he had to make it count. One night in Charleston, while having dinner, Ellie leaned in and whispered, "We can leave for a few minutes." Her phone rang, but she ignored it. One of the biggest mistakes she'd make. Every cheater slips up eventually. Meanwhile, 3 hours north in Charleston, Will was eating Chinese food when his phone rang. The area code was 843. He knew that area. Charleston. He thought it was odd since he didn't get calls from customers, and no close friends lived there. "Hello?" he answered. "Hi, this is Gemma Hartnell. I'm trying to reach Ellie Benton." "Well, you're close. This is her husband, Will. Can I help you with something?" "I'm sorry to bother you while you're on vacation, Mr. Benton, but Mrs. Benton was riding at Kiowa today, and it looks like her wallet fell out. We tried calling her, but she didn't answer. I found your number in her wallet, so I decided to call. Glad I reached you." Before Gemma could go on, Will interrupted, his voice tight. "You told Ellie, right?" "Yes," she replied. "Can you confirm her address on her driver's license?" "Sure. Give me a second. 1810 Falling Leaf Drive." Will felt his heart drop. "That's our address, but there must be a mistake. Ellie's at a horse show in Lexington this weekend." He wiped his palms, now sweating. "I'm sorry, sir. If you see her, can you let her know her wallet is at Seabrook Stables?" "Yes, I'll tell her. She's probably picking it up tonight or tomorrow," Will stammered, trying to figure out what was going on. After hanging up, Will quickly pulled up the itinerary Ellie had given him. She'd left early in the morning, due back Sunday night. The first thing he saw was Champagne Races, Lexington, Kentucky, the 10th of September 12th. The timing didn't add up. Ellie wasn't there. "What the hell is she doing in Charleston or on Kiowa Island?" he muttered to himself. "Why did she lie about it? There's got to be a reason." Will, always the problem solver, sat down and thought through every possible explanation. Could she be planning a surprise for later? No, everything's planned out. A show in Charleston this weekend? She didn't mention that. Maybe she had a girls' weekend, but why hide it? None of it made sense. Then the thought hit him like a punch. Is she having an affair? He felt a lump in his throat, a tight knot in his stomach. He'd always seen her as the most amazing woman, beautiful, smart, faithful. What the hell do I do? He thought. He needed to figure this out. Calm down. His mind raced. He picked up his phone and started to press speed dial for Corey, but stopped. Wait a minute, he thought as the pieces clicked. Corey's gone to Florida this weekend to visit his relatives, right? Will flipped through his contacts until he found Marty Parker's name and dialed his number. Will, to what do I owe this honor? Marty answered, his voice light. I hope you and my son are still fighting fair. Hey, Marty, I'm trying to reach Corey, Will said, keeping it calm. His phone's going to voicemail, Will added, a hint of frustration in his voice. He told me he was visiting you and Vera this weekend. Just wondering if he's around. Marty sounded confused. Corey said he was in Hilton Head with some frat buddies. Want me to try getting in touch with him? Will kept his cool. Nah, I've probably got the weekend wrong. I left him a message. He'll get back to me. Love, faith, Marty muttered, then hung up. This can't be happening, Will thought, his mind racing. Not Corey, not Ellie. Please let it not be true. He sat there for about an hour trying to breathe and think. What do I do? Go chase them down? That's crazy. No way I'd know where they're staying. Do I wait and ask Ellie when she gets home? She'd probably lie again. She's smart enough to cover her tracks. He was still stuck. He Googled North Carolina divorce laws. North Carolina was a no-fault state, so alimony wasn't an issue. But what about his share of the company? If she and Corey took my half, they'd own the majority. Could that be her plan? He didn't want to think about it, but the thought lingered. He also considered the possibility of a fault-based divorce due to infidelity, but the burden of proof was huge. Still, if she was with Corey, all he had was a phone call from a stable employee. One thing was clear. If Ellie and Corey are together, I'm done. Will didn't care about the money. He could find a good job or start his own thing. But he couldn't pretend to be a good husband while a private investigator dug up the truth. It was late Friday night when Will gave up. He popped 3 Tylenol PM, set the alarm for 8 a.m., and went to bed. 30 minutes later, the meds started kicking in, and he drifted off. Meanwhile, in Charleston, it was past midnight when Corey and Ellie sat on the porch after dinner and a walk on the beach. They came back to the room, and Ellie drew a bath in the deep clawfoot tub. She told Corey to wait on the bed. An hour later, they were back on the porch, talking quietly. What are we doing, Corey? Ellie asked, her voice unsure. What do you mean? Corey replied with a smirk. Seems like you know exactly what we've been up to. Ellie playfully punched him. No, seriously, why are we doing this? We've been at it for 8 months. You've got plenty of other girls, and I've got a husband I love. Her last word stuck. She did love Will, but how could she say it when she was right here with Corey? Corey could tell she was torn, so he didn't tease her about it. Honestly, I feel guilty when you mention his name, Corey admitted. I've known him 7 years longer than you. We worked together all day, building this company. Corey's voice softened. I love Will too, but I can't keep my hands off you. You're unforgettable. Ellie sighed, not meeting his eyes. Maybe you just can't stand that Will has something you don't. Maybe this is our last weekend. I'm going on a cruise with him on Tuesday. He can never find out. But I want to have a life with Will. Maybe even a family one day, Ellie added almost wistfully. Corey's voice dropped. You're not saying this weekend's the last, are you? Ellie avoided his gaze. I don't know, but no, I don't think so. She tried to lighten the mood. It's a little late to say I don't have a big head. Corey chuckled, but it didn't fully erase the tension between them. At exactly 8 a.m., Will Benton stumbled out of bed, still groggy from too many sleeping pills. He forced himself into a cold shower to clear his head, then brewed some coffee while finalizing the plan he'd come up with over the last 30 minutes. A few minutes later, Will dialed Sterling's after-hours private investigation service in Charleston, California. The operator took his info and promised to call back in 30 minutes. Less than 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Mr. Benton, this is Amanda Cunningham. How can I help you? Her voice was calm and professional. Will quickly laid out his concerns, reading off the notes he'd written down. My wife, Ellie Benton, said she was in Lexington this weekend, but dropped her purse at Kiowa Island. I think she's there with her lover, Corey Parker. I have no idea where they're staying, but I'm guessing it's somewhere private, like a remote house or cottage. They'll likely be there until tomorrow afternoon, so I need info fast. I want proof. Photos, videos, anything. Money's no issue. Amanda chuckled softly. Don't worry, Mr. Benton. Once we get your 50% deposit, our team will track them down and find out what they're up to. We've got over 30 years of experience in this. We'll have their location within the hour. They talked for another 15 minutes. Will was convinced and transferred the deposit. They agreed Amanda would call back by noon with an update. Around the same time, Ellie was listening to her voicemail in the Mustang as Corey drove her back to Kiowa to get her wallet. She realized she forgot to call Will and left him a sweet but dishonest message about horses and a bad breakfast at the North Lexington Courtyard Marriott. She assured him she'd enjoy their anniversary cruise next week. When they got to Seabrook, Ellie went into the office to grab her wallet. Gemma wasn't there, so she didn't get Will's call. Afterward, they decided to shop on King Street and grab shrimp and grits at slightly north of Broad, a local spot. While Ellie was busy, Will was in touch with Ed Simmons, a longtime family friend and lawyer. Ed was getting ready to play golf when Will called, but he picked up. After a quick chat, Ed apologized to his golf buddies, tipped his caddy $100, and headed straight to Will's house, Will thought as Ed arrived at 1810 Falling Leaf Drive. Ed and Will spent the next 90 minutes reviewing what they had so far. After discussing it, Ed concluded that Ellie was likely cheating with someone, possibly Corey. At 11:57 a.m., Will's phone rang. It was Amanda. She gave him an update. Ellie was definitely in Seabrook. She rode at the stables yesterday and was there this morning with a man in a red Mustang who fits the description of Corey Parker. He rented the car from National Car Rental and listed a cottage on Folly Island as his address. It's a secluded spot far from other houses. The couple spent 2 hours shopping downtown on King Street, and about 10 minutes ago, they were having lunch at the Snob restaurant. She's sure it was shrimp and grits. The cottage had surveillance equipment set up while they were out. How the hell did you find all this so fast? Will asked, shocked. Before Amanda could respond, Ed joined the call. Miss Cunningham, this is Ed Simmons, Mr. Benton's attorney. Mrs. Cunningham, but please call me Amanda, she replied. Sorry, call me Ed. Ed's tone was all business now. We'll be working together a lot over the next few weeks. I'd like to ask you to follow some protocols to help my client handle this. Is it okay if I record this conversation? Of course, Amanda agreed. Also, please transfer my client's down payment. I have the info and have already wired the money. My firm is now officially handling the case on Mr. Benton's behalf. All invoices should come to me. Yes, I understand. We'll reimburse Mr. Benton right away, Amanda said. Great. Now, here's what I need you and your team to do for the next 30 minutes. Will listened closely as Ed and Amanda laid out the next steps. He was impressed by how smoothly they worked together. They made a solid plan, and Amanda was on top of it. Thanks, Amanda. I'll let you get back to it, Ed said as the call wrapped up. Understood, Amanda replied, then hung up. Ed turned to Will. Now, I need to know what you want. Do you want to try to fix things with Ellie or go straight for the divorce? I usually advise clients to take their time with this, but I'm not sure you have the luxury of that right now. It's fine if the plan changes, but we need to know what direction you want to go in. Will wasn't the type to act rashly, but this was different. I loved her with everything I had. I thought she felt the same. She betrayed me in my marriage, and my business partner did the same. This isn't a mistake or a drunken mess-up at a company party. This is real, willful cheating, and I can't get over it. It's not just this one time. They've probably been seeing each other. My partner has been just as selfish with our business. I want them both out of my life. I don't care if it costs me everything, but I want them to feel the pain I feel right now, Will said, his voice shaking with emotion. Ed put his arm around Will's shoulders. Okay, Will, if Amanda's team finds what we think they will, here's what we'll do. By Sunday afternoon, Ellie was getting worried. She called Will 5 times, 3 times on Saturday, and twice Sunday morning. All she got back was a short text. Busy with crisis, talk tonight, enjoy Lexington. She showed Corey the message and asked him to call Will to check in. It's probably work stuff, right? But I can't call him. How do I explain everything? She said, sounding unsure. Corey shrugged. Tell him you're in Charleston, that you think it's a work problem, and ask him if everything's okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm not thinking straight, Ellie said, trying to convince herself. It's got to be work. No way he knows, Corey added, though he didn't sound convinced. Ellie agreed, but part of her wasn't sure. They didn't talk much as they got ready to head to the airport. They tried to make love, but Ellie's mind was still on Will. Minutes after they left the cottage, an AT&T van pulled up. Two workers went in to disassemble and reassemble their equipment. 30 minutes later, Amanda and her team were reviewing the tapes. An hour later, one of the workers joked, "Damn, what stamina they have." Corey dropped Ellie at the front desk and went to return the rental car. As he was leaving, his phone rang. It was his dad. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" Corey asked, trying to sound normal. "Just checking in." "How's Hilton Head?" his dad asked. "Good. Not hitting the ball great, but the seafood's been amazing," Corey said, keeping it casual. "You and Mom good?" he asked. "Yeah, everything's fine." "Listen, Friday night, Will called me. He thought you were visiting us this weekend. I reminded him you were at Hilton Head, but he seemed off. Is everything all right with him?" Corey's stomach dropped. He had to stay calm. He's been stressed lately. He and Ellie are thinking about starting a family, so he's worried about being a dad. I'm sure he just mixed up the dates. I'm still coming up in 3 weeks. His dad bought it. They chatted a bit more, then hung up. Corey decided not to tell Ellie about the call. It's probably nothing, he thought. Before they left for their separate flights, Corey and Ellie were still on different planes. Ellie went straight to her car at the long-term parking lot and drove home. She was still on edge, but calmed down as she drove. It was a busy Sunday night, but she made it back just in time. When she pulled into the driveway, she hit the button for the garage door, but it didn't open. "Damn battery," she muttered, not thinking much of it. But when she looked up, the house was dark except for the porch light. That's when she got her first clue. As she walked to the front door, she saw an envelope taped to it with her name on it. She grabbed it and tried her key, but it wouldn't work. Panic hit her. She set her bag down and sat on the porch. She opened the note, and when she saw what was inside, tears flooded her eyes. Ellie read the note aloud. "Mrs. Benton, I'm informing you that your husband, Will Benton, has hired me as his attorney. It's come to his attention that you're having an affair with his business partner, Corey Parker. You've lied about being in Lexington, and we're actually in Charleston with Mr. Parker for the past several days. Here's what you need to know. My client has evidence of your betrayal, and he's changed the locks on the house. You're to find somewhere else to stay. The mortgage is in his name, so you don't have the right to enter the house without his permission. Do not contact my client directly. He'll reach out to you through me to discuss separation and divorce. You'll have a chance to pick up your things under supervision tomorrow. Please coordinate with me, not Mr. Benton. You should contact an attorney right away. Please give them my info. My client has made sure there are funds in your joint account for immediate expenses. Use your Bank of America debit card. All joint credit cards have been canceled." Ellie sat still for a moment, trying to process the note. She tried calling Will, ignoring the instructions she just read. After a few minutes, she got a message from Ed Simmons. "I insist that you respect my client's wishes and not contact him directly." Ellie stared at the message, frustrated and confused. Across town, Corey Parker was dealing with his own note from Simmons, and Wyckoff. The note read, "Mr. Corey Parker, my client, your business partner, Will Benton, has learned of your affair with his wife. During a financial audit by Randolph Michaels, it was found that company funds had been misused to cover multiple affairs between you and Mrs. Benton. My client wants to discuss terminating the partnership and purchasing your 50% share of the company. You need to contact a lawyer and financial advisor. Do not contact my client directly. All communication should go through me. Any violation will result in legal action." Corey cursed under his breath. "Damn, how many times did I hide this under-client business?" Then it hit him. He'd just wired about $1,000 from last weekend to their accountant. Will never checked expenses closely, but Corey knew someone like Michaels could catch the pattern. Screw me. The rest of the night, Corey drowned his stress in bourbon, trying to figure out how to deal with the mess. Ellie texted and called him nonstop. He ignored it. "Damn, I've got enough of my own crap to deal with. Let her handle hers," he thought. Ellie sat outside her house, or what was now her former house. Shock hit her hard. Will knew way more than she ever thought. Corey, her so-called lover, was ignoring her calls. "I guess I know where I stand now," she muttered, bitterness creeping in. "I betrayed a guy who died for me for an idiot who doesn't even care." In the guest house at Ed Simmons' place, Will and Ed were going over their next steps. Looking around, Will knew he'd made the right choice. Ed was a pro. He'd pulled in another senior partner, 2 junior partners, and a paralegal by Sunday night to work on the case. Will thought, "This is going to cost me a lot," but he smiled. At least it was worth it for that rogue witch. Ed reassured Will, "Ellie and Corey will be scrambling for lawyers by tomorrow." The first thing they'll do is deny everything, but we've got too much evidence for that. They'll try to downplay it to save face, but don't worry about that. Just stick to your routine, stay out of trouble, and don't talk to anyone you don't have to. And whatever you do, don't take candy from anyone driving a sketchy van, Ed joked, slapping Will on the back. You're in good hands with Simmons, and Wickoff. Will wasn't sure if he could go home. He figured Ellie would be waiting for him, ready with her excuses. It didn't mean anything, just Zex. Please, baby, we can fix this. I love you, he imagined her saying. Ed, already a step ahead, smiled and pulled out his phone. One of my guys just saw her hanging around. She's basically trespassing. I told them to have her leave. He grinned, pretending to call the cops. Told her I'd report her for being a violent intruder. She didn't stick around long after that. Ed laughed, but Will's smile was weak. Stupid witch, Will muttered. Over the next few days, Will followed Ed's advice. By Tuesday afternoon, he'd changed his number. He couldn't deal with Ellie constantly trying to contact him. The office situation wasn't any better. Corey, on his lawyer's advice, decided to work from home. You don't want to seem like you're refusing work or that you're admitting defeat, his lawyer had told him. Will told his small staff that he and Corey were working through some issues. For now, treat him like a partner. We'll work it out soon, he said, though he wasn't sure how true that was. Ellie kept working at the stables, but her mind was all over the place. Her boss, Stephanie, noticed something was wrong. Ellie just said things weren't good with Will, but didn't go into details. Stephanie hugged her and told her to hang in there. Ellie also struggled to find a decent lawyer. Every lawyer she tried wanted her to lay out all the facts up front. After spilling everything, 2 lawyers turned her down, realizing there wasn't much to gain from the case. Finally, she found Seth Moore, an ambulance chaser. He promised he could get her a good payout, just enough for him to cover his rent and have some left for a night out. If you're desperate later, maybe you'll sleep with me in exchange for my services, he said with a sleazy grin. Meanwhile, Ed and his team were handling things much better. They pushed for a quick hearing once Ellie got her subpoena, 2 days after she got home. Corey's lawyer, James Abernathy, was tougher than Ellie's last lawyer, but he knew he couldn't drag this out. After a couple of weeks, he told Corey it was time to sell his share of the business. He offered to sell it at 80 cents on the dollar, a low price to give Corey time to recover. When Simmons got the offer, he advised Will to counter with 10 cents on the dollar. We'll probably settle around 30, he said. I know Abernathy. He'll negotiate hard even though he knows how bad it is for Corey. Will wanted Corey to feel his pain. 10 cents on the dollar would wipe him out, but if we settle for 30, it'll hit him hard enough. Let's see where this goes. 3 days later, Ed came through for Will, just like he promised. 28 cents on the dollar, he told Will over the phone. It's not as much as you were hoping for, but honestly, it's a solid win. Will appreciated the effort. But then, Ed switched gears and got serious. Will, you're going to have to sit down with Ellie. You need to have that conversation. The judge will want to know if you've made any attempts to talk things through with her. Even if you're set on divorcing, it's always better to have your ducks in a row before they start grilling you. We've got Judge Kim Landis on this one. Could have been worse, honestly. But she's all about fixing relationships, so she's going to ask about counseling. She might even make it a requirement. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but you need to talk to her. I'll arrange for the lawyer to be there, but after that, you two should just sit down alone. Show that you can keep it together and talk calmly, even when you've been hurt. It'll help prove you're the reasonable one here. Will felt a lump in his throat. He knew Ed was right, but the thought of facing Ellie was tough. All right, Ed, I get it. Let's do it. Ed looked at Will with a little sympathy. He couldn't help but think back to his own younger days when his first love, Becky, had left him behind. He'd been through it. Broken heart, college paid for by an ROTC scholarship, and serving as a first lieutenant when the Gulf War kicked off. He had a rough time too, but with the support of his friends and family, he'd pulled through. Will would make it, just like he did, and honestly, he'd be better off without his cheating wife. But that wasn't the focus right now. Will needed support in the moment, and Ed wasn't going to leave him hanging. The meeting was scheduled for the following Friday afternoon. Ed wanted Will to have the weekend to recover afterward. The plan was to spend the first half hour with the lawyer in the room, then let Will and Ellie have some private time. When the day came, Ellie and her attorney, Seth Moore, showed up on time. Seth looked like he stepped straight out of a department store, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit right. Ellie looked neat in a modest light blue sundress, a maroon sweater, and a ponytail, with Michael Kors sunglasses to top it off. Ed and Will got up when they walked into the private conference room, one of the few that was actually secluded at the office. Ed wanted to make sure Seth understood just how much trouble his client was in. He knew Seth's office was practically next door, where he kept a cheap desk and had an assistant who moonlighted as a dancer when he could afford to pay her. Will had always been in love with Ellie, and just seeing her now, even after everything, made his heart ache. He managed to smile, but avoided looking at her too lovingly. "Hey, Will, good to see you," Ellie said, her gaze fixed on him, almost like she was trying to figure out if he still had any feelings for her. Will gave a nod. "Ellie, thanks for coming." Ed gave Will a quick look, trying to telegraph a message. "Don't let her see anything." "Let's get started," Ed said, signaling for everyone to sit down. Seth quickly jumped in, eager to take control. "My client is here to hear what her husband has in mind for saving their marriage." Before Seth could keep talking, Ed grabbed a huge file off his desk and shoved it toward the lawyer. "What's this?" Seth asked, confused. "I don't think we're ready for any documents today, counselor," Ed said with a sharp tone, wanting to get this over with. "This file here, about half of it, details the infidelity and breach of vows on your client's part. We've kept it short and to the point, so no redundancies. Inside, you'll find notes and photos from her trip to Charleston, South Carolina 3 weeks ago. We've also got hotel staff ready to testify about seeing her with a man named Corey Parker, who they checked in with under fake names, pretending to be married. This went on for 6 months. Our investigation has been thorough, and there's no room for doubt. This is all cold, hard proof." Ellie froze as Ed laid out the details. She could feel the weight of the photos being described, the realization hitting her that the truth was right there in black and white. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. The affair had seemed so exciting, so thrilling when it happened. But now, hearing it all laid bare, she understood she had betrayed someone who had loved her. She fought to keep her composure, but it wasn't easy. Ed slapped a second folder on the table. This one was thin, only 2 pages. "Here's my client's proposal for the divorce settlement," Ed said, looking at Ellie with a hard stare for emphasis. "Personally, I think it's a pretty generous offer. If it were up to me, I'd lay everything out in front of the judge, let her see the cold, hard truth about your client's betrayal. But Mr. Benton, being the stand-up guy that he is, convinced me to make this offer instead. I guess his experience in the courtroom is finally paying off." Ellie looked defeated, her face crumpling as the reality set in. Seth Moore, on the other hand, looked thrown off balance. Ed could already tell they weren't going to reach a resolution today. The first court hearing was still 2 weeks away, and there would be plenty of back and forth before they even saw the judge. Will's offer was harsh considering the situation, but in Ed's eyes, it was more than fair, especially considering the betrayal Will had suffered. The terms were simple, but cutting. First, Will was offering a lump sum of $75,000 in exchange for Ellie taking full ownership of the company. "From here on out, she's got no claim on it," Ed explained. Second, the house, if they sold it, would see the proceeds split down the middle. But don't expect much. You've only been there 5 years, so maybe $10,000 each. Third, Ellie could keep the car, but she'd have to start making her own payments a month after the divorce went through. Fourth, she could take whatever furniture she wanted, but the marital bed and a rocking chair set from Will's grandmother were off limits. Will had already made up his mind to burn the bed in the backyard when he moved out. Fifth, Ellie could keep all the jewelry Will had given her, except the engagement and wedding rings. "Those need to be returned by the day the divorce is finalized," Ed added, voice cool. Finally, the divorce would be finalized on the grounds of Ellie's infidelity. There were more details in the document, but those were the main points. "We'll need time to discuss this and get back to you," Seth said, trying to keep the moral high ground. "But I'll be honest, Mrs. Benton isn't going to accept the demand to return her rings." Ed clenched his jaw, feeling his blood boil at the audacity of this guy, but he kept his cool, leaning across the table, his voice steady. "Seth, you and I both know your client willingly and repeatedly broke her marriage vows with Corey Parker. She did it with full knowledge of the emotional damage she was causing my client, not to mention the hit it would take on his business. They went to great lengths to cover it all up. What your client did was cruel. If you want to drag this out in front of Judge Landis, be my guest. I'm ready for it. But I'll tell you straight up, you have no case. Your client lied, cheated, and we've got mountains of proof. We'll keep it under wraps for now, but I swear if you or your client try anything else to make this worse for my client, we'll air it all at trial. If I don't hear back from you by noon Tuesday, consider this offer dead. See you in court." Seth fumed, but even he knew this was a losing battle. The settlement was a good deal for him, and he was looking at a decent payday. $10,000 before taxes, which was more than he'd usually pull in a couple of months. Ed stood up, straightened his jacket, and gave one last look at the table. "If that's all, I think we can give the Bentons a few minutes alone." Seth got up, shaking Ed's hand, and muttered, "We'll be in touch." Ed shook his hand, then excused himself to the men's room to wash up. Will and Ellie were left alone. Ed had advised Will not to speak first. As the one who'd been wronged, he needed to let Ellie talk first. The door slammed shut behind the attorneys, and the room was suddenly suffocating. Dead. Still. Will stood there for a second, staring at Ellie. She didn't even have the decency to look up at him. Her eyes were glued to the floor, like she could somehow wish herself out of the mess she had made. Finally, her voice broke the silence, thin and trembling. "I can't take it back, Will. I know I can't fix it, but God, I wish I could. I've screwed up, okay? I know I hurt you more than you'll ever know. I'll live with that pain every single day. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I regret every damn thing I did." Will stared at her, expression unreadable. Then he shrugged, a sneer creeping up on his face. "You regret it now? How cute. Maybe a little too late for that, don't you think? You should have thought about all this regret when you were screwing my best friend behind my back. Now it's my problem." Ellie's hands clenched into fists, but she didn't say anything at first. He could feel her desperation radiating off her. She was begging now, in that pathetic, broken way she had learned to perfect. "Please, Will, please don't let this be the end. I don't want a divorce. I don't want to lose you. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even counseling, anything. I swear I'll do better. I swear we can fix this. Please, please, just don't walk away." Will's eyes narrowed like a hunter sizing up its prey. He stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You want to fix it? You want me to believe in this freaking fairy tale where you change overnight? You're still the same lying piece of crap who stabbed me in the back. You think a couple of therapy sessions are going to erase all the years I wasted on you? No chance in hell." She reached out, her voice shaking now, fear and desperation mixing in her every word. "Will, please." "Shut up," he cut her off, his tone a whip. "No more talking. There's nothing to fix, Ellie. You've ruined this. You've ruined us. I loved you. I gave you everything, and you couldn't even keep your legs closed. I'm not going to let you walk away with some half-assed apology and maybe we can try again. You ruined it, and now you get to deal with the consequences." Ellie's face went pale, her chest heaving with the weight of his words. "So that's it, huh? You're really just done with me?" "Done?" Will's voice dripped with venom. "I'm not just done, Ellie. I'm so far beyond done. I hate myself for loving you, for thinking you were ever worth it. You're so selfish. You don't even get how much you've destroyed everything. You burned every bridge. You broke me. I'm over you. Over all of it. And you know what? I'm going to make sure you mean absolutely nothing to me from here on out. Not a single thought. Not a single damn feeling. You're not worth it." Her breath caught in her throat, the words she wanted to say, choking her. "Do you hate me that much?" "Hate you?" Will snapped. "Yeah, I do. And I hate myself for being so stupid, for believing in you, for thinking you were different. You're just like every other selfish, heartless witch out there. You only care about yourself, and you always will. But I'm moving on, fast. And you can go get your pretty little horse and your nice little stallion. You'll find a way to survive. Hell, maybe you'll survive better without me. But it sure as hell won't be with me. You won't ever have me again. Not my love, not my time." She crumbled, her facade of control slipping away. "Will, please." His cold, empty eyes stared at her as he turned away, not even giving her the courtesy of a final glance. "I'm done with you. The sooner you accept that, the better. Don't ever come near me again. If you need anything, call Corey or find another man to fix your sorry, but it won't be me." Ellie stood there, lost, her world unraveling around her as he walked away like she never mattered at all. And before the door even fully closed behind him, she heard the last words hanging in the air, cruel, sharp, and final. "We had everything, Ellie. And you freaking blew it." Over the next few days, Seth Moore, the attorney, kept pushing Simmons to make concessions on some of the divorce terms. It was like talking to a brick wall, but hey, it gave him something to do. After their second call, Simmons just stopped picking up. The Tuesday deadline loomed, and Ellie realized she wasn't going to get anything more than what Will had already offered. On Monday, Corey called her. He was looking for a shoulder to lean on, so Ellie, desperate for any kind of affection, agreed to meet him. She showed up at his condo around 8 p.m. and didn't leave until the next morning. Corey wasn't exactly kind to her, but it was pathetic. This was what she had come to. Simmons had someone tailing Corey, and the investigator had footage of Ellie coming and going from the apartment. When she left in the morning, her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess, and she looked like a woman who had just been used. The investigator smirked and sent the evidence straight to Simmons. That morning, when Ed was reviewing the footage with his assistant, he muttered, "No one could be that dumb." Afterward, Ellie returned to her rented studio apartment and called Moore. She told him to accept the divorce petition as is. He tried to argue, but she hung up on him before he could get another word in. The first hearing finally arrived. Judge Landis lived up to her tough reputation. She asked sharp, direct questions. Moore was floundering. He looked like a guy stranded on a life raft with sharks circling. Desperate, doesn't even cover it. Simmons, on the other hand, was ready for anything. He answered questions before they were even asked, and when he did get questioned, he had plenty of backup. The judge turned to both spouses, drilling them with more questions. Will was calm, cool, and collected. Ellie, on the other hand, was a mess. At the end of the hearing, Judge Landis said, "The evidence here is pretty overwhelming. I'll need a couple of months to go over everything and possibly follow up with more questions. When I do, I expect immediate answers." "Got it?" Both lawyers nodded. Landis had a packed docket, so it was 3 months before they came back into court. When the case resumed, Landis didn't hold back. "This is a clear-cut case of infidelity. In most divorces, there are two sides, but, Mrs. Benton, I can't find a single reason for you leaving your husband for Mr. Parker. As I understand it, he sold his share of the business for next to nothing, which just confirms everything. Normally, I'd suggest counseling, but your betrayal is so severe there's no point. Mrs. Benton, I strongly urge you to reflect on your life choices and try to build a better future for yourself." Mr. Benton's divorce petition is granted and the terms are approved. The marriage is officially dissolved and this case is adjourned. No cheers or applause came from Will's side of the room. He and Ed shook hands, grim and silent. Seth Moore made a quick exit, leaving his client sitting alone. Ellie got up and left the courtroom, walking out by herself. Will was starting his life over alone, still hurting, but at least he knew he wasn't truly alone. 5 months after the divorce was finalized, Corey had a little accident. He slipped and fell down 3 flights of stairs. The fall left him in the hospital for 3 weeks. His blood booze level was 0.15, nearly double the legal limit. He couldn't remember a thing about the fall, and by the time he was recovering, his insurance had run out. His savings had been wiped out by medical bills. Will found out about Corey's accident while driving through Smoky Mountain National Park. He smiled to himself, thinking, "Serves him right." The police investigated, and it came out that Corey had been entertaining Ellie the night of his fall. The evidence was clear. They were having an affair. Ellie was charged with aggravated attack and sentenced to 3 years behind bars. It wasn't a pleasant experience for her. As for Corey, he still limps to this day, working as a tech support guy at a local junior college.